picked up the grain drill. We're renting this from the county NRCS Soil and Water Conservation District. We're going to get it set up, calibrated, and try to get to work. So we're going to plant some cover crop and some pasture. We got some seed, got some vetch and winter peas, rye, oats, triticale, and some clover, turnips. I'm going to get some seed mixed up and start calibrating. You want to mix it? Mix it up.
Mama,
What?
don't cover my hands up. Blah.
Like it's really deep.
Now I want to get off. Whoa.
You up here, Boone?
I'm up there. I'm up there.
You want to see? So what are we doing today?
We are planting cover crop on the sorghum patch and trying to get a good cover crop established. So we got the sorghum harvested. I burned it off because it was pretty thick, and then I bush hogged some of the.
What was it thick with?
Well, mostly where we didn't have sorghum, it was thick with a bunch of weeds, crabgrass, foxtail, you know, just morning glory, all kinds of weeds. So I couldn't plant through that. I didn't feel like I'd get a good stand. So I burned that off so that hopefully we can get a good stand of cover crop established. This is our, I guess this is our 5th cover crop to grow in the sorghum patch. The previous years we've just broadcast the seed, and I felt like to get a better stand, we needed to start drilling it. So we rented a drill.
So why are we cover cropping?
Well, there's a couple different reasons we're trying to cover crop. One is to build the soil, keep it healthy, feed the biology, keep living roots in the soil, and keep the soil covered. Help improve organic matter, infiltration rate, less runoff and erosion. But then the other thing we're trying to do is swap to no-till and no spray. And in order to do that, we have to keep a really thick mat of biomass on the ground to keep the weeds from germinating and coming up. So the cover crop is one of the tools that you can use between your cash crops to not only feed the soil and improve the soil, but to cut down on weed competition and weed germination the following year. One of the reasons where we didn't have sorghum planted, it got so thick. We should have planted something there, a summer
Yeah.
cover crop, instead of just leaving it fallow. Then we wouldn't have had as many weed seeds produced and to be a problem for next year. Yeah,
So
if you leave the soil bare, there's gonna be all kinds of stuff that comes up. The soil is gonna cover itself, or the plants are gonna cover the soil, however you want to look at it, if you leave it bare. So we're just trying to get to where we're continuously planting an annual crop, so that we can keep rotating into something that we can terminate, something that's not weeds, and something that's not
something we have more
perennial.
control over.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yep.
So what are your plans dealing with the cover crop in the spring when you get ready to plant your cash crop?
So planting into the cover crop, really all you need is a good planter with a double disc opener, and you can cut through it and plant into the cover crop. And you can either plant into the cover crop with it standing and then come back and roller crimp it. That works well. The other thing you can do is you can roller crimp it down and then plant into it. Either way, I've tried both. I don't know that one works better than the other with the tools that we have, but that's all we'll do. We'll crimp the cover crop down with a roller crimper, and we'll show that to you later. But then we'll plant right into the cover crop. It is November 27th, 2023. The cover crop in the sorghum patch is up. Looking good. We're gonna put some exclusion cages up. Just kind of monitor the deer pressure on the cover crop. It's pretty. Alright, so I'm down here in the sorghum patch where the cover crop is. You can see the cover crop there in the background, kind of coming up in rows. It was planted November 14th. Today is the 27th. It's been up probably about a week and a half. It came up pretty quick. We got a light rain right after it was planted. It was really dry when I planted it, hardly any moisture in the ground at all. And then we got a real light rain, 1/10 and a half maybe, the following day, the 15th. So we had some germination then, and then that weekend, about 4 or 5 days later, we had another rain, a nice good soaking rain, probably about 1 inch. So the cover crop's been up for a week and a half, most of it. Some of it's still coming up. But I'm down here putting exclusion cages up, so that we can monitor the deer pressure. And oh, by the way, anytime you're working with wire, glasses is always a good idea. I had a piece of wire snag me on the side of the face. Thankfully it didn't hurt too bad, and if it had got in my eye, I've got glasses on. So anytime you're working with wire, put some glasses on. So let's look at these exclusion cages. I've got one here, one down over there on the east end. We'll look at them real quick and see how I did it. This is the exclusion cage, just some old scrap dog wire I had and a couple T-posts, and I put chicken wire around the bottom this time. I've done exclusion cages in the past with just this dog wire, and it worked real good. And then I had good growth inside the cage, and everything outside was grazed down. I came back and it was all grazed down, so I feel like a rabbit probably got through there. And we've got turkeys around here and whatnot, so I just went ahead and put some chicken wire around the base just to help make sure that we can see how everything's growing. It's kind of interesting. If you look down here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it through the cage. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. If you look at those blades, they've been nipped off already. You can see it right here. these have been nipped off. You see they're flat on the top versus pointed like these. So there's already some pressure grazing out here. I just kind of wanted to get these cages put up and just see, you know, without the deer, rabbits, turkeys, whatever else might be out here grazing, what kind of growth we can get in this cover crop. So I've got kind of tried to put the cages to where I got a little bit of every species that's in the mix. You're not going to be able to see it in the cage, but we've got winter peas out here. You can see that pea coming up. There's oats, cereal rye, triticale. It's hard to tell the difference. That looks like it might be triticale. That's probably rye. Let's see. That may be an oat there. And then there's some turnips, radishes. You can see this little turnip or radish coming up. And then hairy vetch. There's some hairy vetch coming up right there. So I just tried to get a little bit of everything in the cage so we can see how it's growing. But that's what we got. So I talked briefly about the cover crop mix. I just thought I'd take a second to talk a little bit about timing. Here in central Mississippi, our first frost date's around the end of October, 1st of November, somewhere in there. This cover crop, as I mentioned, was planted November 14th, which really is late. It's too late. I'd much rather be planting the cover crop early October, late September. But because of the way we do the sorghum wasn't harvested until October. So in order to drill the cover crop like we did, or even broadcast it, we need to wait till the sorghum is out of the field in order to plant the cover crop. So that pushes our planting date back later than ideal. But one of the things I do to offset that is plant just a little thicker. This cover crop was planted somewhere in the range of 95 pounds to the acre for the mix. So that's probably more than you really need, but because it's late and I need to get the biomass, we're not going to get as much tillering out of the grasses, the wheat, rye, or triticale, rye, oats, and whatnot, and not going to get as much growth before the winter starts. So I just planted a little thicker than I normally would, but that's what we're doing as far as planting timing here in the sorghum patch.